Hello and welcome to it's going to be a sad episode. It's another sad episode. Roll the sad fucking graphic. We don't have graphics. One, Frozen, we need to make graphics. Two, it needs to be a sad graphic.
It's gonna be a graphic of Sneaky and Jensen after they're told that they're benched.
Yeah, it's
So they look like sad.
It's going to be a graphic of me just
surprised.
like with a fucking like gun in my mouth, wearing like a C9 shirt.
That's me all the time.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, I guess we can try and break it down a little bit. I found a couple things that I do want to talk about from the League of Legends matches, and while I think that they're obvious, I still think they need to be brought up.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get to that eventually. First, I do have some stuff. I'm gonna start off positive, and then we can slowly get into just more and more Depression Town. So first up, Blind, one of our Fortnite boys, they got 6th place at the Fortnite thing. I forgot what it was called, but can't remember. I don't think we talked about that last time. We could have actually. We actually might have. Anyway, fuck it. So, anyway, moving on after that stupid mishap. Rainbow Six actually did a thing. They won an entire tournament. They were.
Oh yeah.
What?
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that somehow.
Yeah, they were at DreamHack Montreal, and they fucking cleaned house. They went through pretty much every round, and they were killing it. Shots were on point. Players were on point. Everyone was killing it, and they ended up beating a lot of other highly rated teams, and they won DreamHack Montreal, which is a kind of a big deal since I would say DreamHacks are probably the biggest tournaments for Rainbow Six. I'm not completely sure.
I mean, it would make sense, but I'm not experienced in Rainbow
Well,
Six. I will say, I did watch a little bit. When I went to DreamHack last year.
Well, until someone corrects me, I will make that the case. But it's really cool to see that the team finally like hold on together. Like we were seeing sort of fits and starts that they could do stuff, and we were seeing like, okay, obviously the team has potential, but when are they ever going to like live up to and actually execute? And this was one of those times where they were actually able to do that, and they did it consistently enough throughout a tournament to where practice pays off, and we have a team that can actually win a tournament. They did.
Yeah.
They did, however, lose to Mouse Esports in Pro League. Like, I think the next day, or maybe like the next, like a couple days later. But we're not going to count that. That was a mulligan. Okay, they were hungover from the victory.
Yeah. It's not too surprising to see teams kind of drop an odd one after they win such a big tournament, but that was a head scratcher for sure.
Yeah, I mean that happens. I think to everybody, just because you're like, oh man, we did so great, and you're all confident, and then you get kind of shaken a bit, but it's fine. Moving on to Rocket League, the team won their first match of RLCS. I forgot who they played, but they won, which is the important thing. C9 Rocket League continuing to be one of the more consistent and strong rosters that Cloud9 has put together. So keep just doing what you're doing, I guess. I can't really critique Rocket League because most of the time they're just doing really well.
Yeah, they've probably been the most consistent esport that we've had in really quite a while. They haven't had quite the highs, but they've been by far the most consistent of any other team.
Yeah, and they've won a lot of really good tournaments, and they've placed always fairly highly. So hopefully they'll have another really good season in RLCS. I'm not sure who they'll be playing anytime soon, but hopefully they'll do well.
Yeah, I think that about wraps up Rocket League.
Yeah, I don't have much to say on Rocket League. I do have a lot to say about CS:GO on the other hand, because this shit was atrocious. So the team is at the London Major, and by God, do they just not look like a team anymore?
I mean, there's a team there, but it's questionable
I mean,
how. Or sorry, it's questionable if they're actually a team, but there are players there.
they are a team in the loose definition of there are players that compete for the same side. I don't know what to say. I don't really have a lot of words. It's just that when you and the thing is, like, they were like spending, I think, like a month or so just like boot camping to try to prepare themselves, and to just continuously disappoint and have like these really poor results. I think push will come to shove eventually, and there's just going to be drastic changes. Like even star players like Russian Automatic, who are supposed to be the ones that are carrying us to victory, are underperforming and struggling just as much as Skadoodle, who has not looked great in a while, Styko, who is a filler, and I can't really fault him because Cloud9 was just like, we need a replacement for right now. We don't want to commit it to anything, and you're available, so you'll have to do. And Golden, who is new to the team and is sort of a shot caller, and maybe the team isn't all put together around how Golden operates. I don't know. It's just, I feel like as the team continues to more underperform and go farther away from their major champions title, I think the more you have to look at all the players and maybe even the coach as well, and just say like, okay, what are you doing to the team and for the team, and what happens when we take you out and try to get someone better, or just someone else, period. And I mean, I don't want to call for like a massive culling of the CS:GO roster, but I'm just generally curious, how far is Cloud9 willing to go to try and get the team back to where it was?
Yeah, and just so you guys know, we're recording this halfway through the majors, so we've played 2 games. It's Thursday, and the first one, we got our ass kicked in, and the second one was a bit unlucky, but I think there were many opportunities in the second match that we probably could have won that before we blew it at the end. So maybe there's some quote unquote improvement, but I do agree with you. I feel like it is a matter of time until a decision is made to the roster, and it's going to involve remaking a good portion of it, if not all of it.
Yeah, I think that you have to seriously at least consider just taking Skadoodle out. He has been underperforming for a good long while, and I think that you just need someone more consistent. We need someone that can actually hit shots, and someone who we. I think the thing is, and this has actually been happening for a while, even when Tarek and Stewie were on the team, we were hoping that Skadoodle would be hot. If Skadoodle is hot, then we're good, because he's hitting all these great shots. He's doing exactly what he needs to do and putting all this pressure on the other team and all that shit. With how it is now, he's more cold than hot, and a cold Skadoodle is a wet noodle, and he can't do much with a wet noodle. So I think that we need to seriously consider maybe just everyone at this point. Like I said, I don't want to completely cull the entire program and try to start from scratch, because that takes a lot more money and time to try and figure something out again. But things are going to happen eventually.
Yeah, I think that about wraps up CS:GO, I think.
I think so. It's been kind of a slow week.
Yeah, we'll have more after the major.
Yeah.
So we know how we did. It's looking like we're probably gonna fall out in a match or two, but crazier shit has happened, like Cloud9 winning a major.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say, like, that's exactly what happened, like, the last time they were at a major, but I think this roster is so different in terms of firepower and everything. And let's move on. I don't want to completely bitch about CS:GO for the whole episode. It's time to bitch about LoL and how once again Cloud9 has failed to meet expectations, or actually completely meet expectations when you think about it historically, on their finals defeat to Team Liquid.
yes, it was disappointing. This, I think that's the understatement of the year. But I think once you watched it, you could tell that they were a class above us. Like, it wasn't even close, honestly. So
Yeah.
I'm disappointed, but I think the better team obviously won, or at least the better prepared team
Oh, most
obviously
definitely.
won.
I think the biggest issue was that Reaper was trying to get so there's a couple of like big glaring issues that you can definitely point out. One was that just every single player on the team was just not on their game. Everyone was playing off. Everyone just did not look like they were in the form that we saw throughout most of the second half of the season, where everyone was playing great and everyone was on form. Everyone just looked really sluggish and off, and that was sometimes you have a bad day. That's understandable. I can't really fault them too much for that, but it was really hard to watch. The second thing is just the drafting, and I think Reaper just got really tried to get way too clever and creative for his own good. You know, the Twitch pick, I don't like that. I think Twitch is garbage. Either you spend a lot of time getting him ahead so he can run over everybody, or you're waiting a while to actually become relevant. And that and not banning out the Scion when you were having such trouble with it every single goddamn game. And you're trying to play it with Twitch where like Twitch can't cut through the Scion. There's no way. He doesn't have enough damage, you know. And I think part of that was just that they were trying to focus too much on trying to shut down Double Lift, but that just meant that the four other players from Team Liquid were just like, all right, we're just gonna counter everyone else and fight you guys because you're trying to counter like one dude too hard, and it backfired tremendously.
Um, I didn't really love the drafts per se, but I'm not exactly sure that they were totally the problem. I think it was a lot of how we played them out. I didn't really love the Hecarim pick, I guess, once we actually got into the game and started playing. The Twitch, I think, was okay. I didn't love the idea of banning Varus and then picking Kaisa, though, and letting them first pick Kaisa, because then that put us with a third tier AEDC as opposed to them getting a tier 1 or tier 2 AEDC and Varus and Kaisa. So I think that ban put us behind. I mean, if you give them Varus, like, yeah, it sucks, but like you can still get Kaisa. Like, you're not, or it's not like there's one like super powerful ADC right now. And I think that was one thing I would have liked them to change. That was pretty much throughout almost all of the matches. I think one of the most disappointing factors about the game, and like, was how unprepared we seemed to be for how the game was going to play out. Like, one of the main things that we got absolutely crushed on was the warding score. Like, Smithy and Ole were all over the place, warding, clearing wards, while Cloud9 just kind of just let it happen. In game 2, when we picked the Lee Sin for Svenskeren, he warded 9 times as Lee Sin, and he purchased 4 control wards. He had the least amount of wards placed that game, and he only purchased one more ward than Pole Belter did on Aurelia. So I think that kind of just goes to show how unprepared we were for how the game was going to play out, because Svenskeren placing 9 wards on Lee Sin is actually like offensive to me, because the ward is one of Lee Sin's main mobility tricks, and it's also like super important. So for some perspective on Sejuani, Xmithy placed 22 wards and purchased 15 control wards. So that's what we were going up against with Svenskeren out there. The first game, the golf in class was still there. Svenskeren placed 25 wards, purchased 19 control wards.
Svenskeren wasn't in game 1. Blabber was in game 1.
Sorry. Xmithy placed 25 wards and purchased 19 control wards, while Blabber placed 13 wards better than Lee Sin and purchased 12 control wards. Like, there was a huge golfing class between the map control, and that's really what suffered most. Like, they were able to completely counter and bleed out any plays that we tried to do. So for me, I think that was the most obvious contribution to our loss. I think that it's a good thing for North America that Team Liquid is able to do that, but it was very worrying to watch us play that way.
Yeah, I think it, like, and I mentioned this not to plug my own stupid garbage, but when I did the little recap for Gamehouse as part of my Eye in the Sky Cloud9 coverage, I talked about how Xmithy and Ole basically created a suffocating vision pattern to where they knew exactly where C9 was at all times. So that made anytime C9 wanted to make an opening or look for an opening, it made it twice as hard, because Team Liquid knows exactly what we're going to do. How can we surprise them and, start a fight or something when they know us setting up for the fight like 2 steps ahead, So I think that them working together to just create this like incredible vision array definitely hurt our chances at winning. I think also the junglers were really off, because when we picked Hecarim, I was expecting Blabber to do what he always does and just play like an insane madman and be super aggressive, but he wasn't. He seemed kind of reserved. He didn't do a lot of really aggressive plays, and when he did, they kind of backfired. Plus, he built tank, which was weird. I was expecting him to kind of go damage so that he could be a bit more reckless and just try to kill people, which is what he did, but that was on Kindred that had more of a lifeline, and Hecarim doesn't have a lifeline. And, I don't know. It was just really upsetting. I think part of the issue was that a lot of our players maybe had stage fright. Like, if you look at it across the board, we don't have a lot of players that have finals experience. This is Licorice's first finals. This is Blabber's first finals. This is Zazel's first finals. This is Golden Glue's first finals. And the narratives may also have stacked up against us. Sneaky and Jensen have not performed well in the finals, really, and won since, Sneaky hasn't won a final since, God, I can't even remember what the year was. Was it 2013, 2014?
That sounds about
I think it's
correct.
in that area.
14. Season 4?
I think so. Like, regardless, like, Sneaky hasn't won a finals in forever. Jensen has not won a finals, period. So, and Svenskeren, even though he's won a couple of finals with TSM, that was a time ago, and now he's a different player, and he's kind of wanting to show everyone that, like, no, I'm the same player. I can still win the championship. But it seems that Cloud9's whole shtick is, we'll do really well in the year overall. Going to the finals at least once a year is pretty good in my opinion, especially this season with how really bad we looked at the start. To go from 10th place all the way to finals and finish second, I would honestly take that. If you gave me the options of like, okay, you can either finish 10th, finish a mediocre playoff spot and lose in quarterfinals, or go slingshot your way all the way to the finals and get second, I would choose getting second because that seems like the best case scenario for us. Um, Overall, really, our luck had to run out eventually. I think it did at the finals, but yeah, I think Cloud9 overall with League of Legends maybe just be cursed to always be a second place team that will not accomplish as much as their potential has them out to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think over the trajectory of the season, like I would take that again. Like after week 1, if you told me that we would end up in second place for the regular season and second place in playoffs, like
I would have called you a fucking liar. I would have
yeah,
slapped
I
you in
would
the
have been okay
face.
with that. I would have expected you to do that also. But I guess I think it would be considered a successful season. There were a lot of good highs. There were some really bad lows. We can talk more about the roster after Worlds, but do you ever think there becomes a time where Reaper should be expected to win something? Or
That's
are
a
we okay
really
with what's
good
happening right now?
question. So if you look at Cloud9 historically from when Reaper comes to coach for us, every year he has taken us to the finals once. And that's pretty good coaching wise. Like he's always taken us to the playoffs. 3 out of the 6 splits we have gone to finals. I think that's a pretty good track record in terms of coaching. That's really good. I think you hold on to Reaper. Even I think that we need to utilize the two coaching system on stage more, and we need to have someone that focuses more on the draft and has more input. Because I think sometimes Reaper gets carried away with trying to play this chess game and it ends up just screwing us when we need just a dedicated drafting strategic coach to better guide us along and is just super duper good at that whole thing. I think the problem more lies in maybe looking at our players and what we do. I mean, I think right now Cloud9 is fine. I don't want to replace anyone. I think the 7-man system is great. It provides a lot of flexibility and versatility. Licorice is one of the best top laners in North America, and he has achieved that title in an incredibly short amount of time. Blabber has an incredibly high skill ceiling that you can really develop under Cloud9's, proven talent development. Jensen is still a really good mid laner. I think the meta really fucked him over because it basically forced him to play supportive mid laners when he can obviously carry on assassins. And he's sort of forced to do that also because Blabber is a rookie jungler that doesn't have a lot of experience, so we need to give him that safety net. Sneaky is still solid. Like, Sneaky still has it. He's still a top 80 carry, and he's been playing for years and years and years, and that's something that not a lot of players can say. There's sometimes a lot of skill drop off, but Sneaky, I haven't, mechanics wise at least, I have not seen any sort of drop off whatsoever. Sneaky is still sick. And Zazel is pretty great tactically in the communication department, which really is what a support's role is. You can say that, it's to initiate and chain CC and all this crap and ward, but mostly in the professional world, a support is for shot calling and communication. And Zazel does that really well, and I think we really saw once Zazel was just starting full time on the roster and playing with Sneaky and Jensen, the communication was a lot better and their decision making was a lot better. So I think you don't change this roster. I think you just work on, okay, we found something that actually works. Let's work to try and make it better. And that's the end of my rant right there.
All right. I'll let that hold. I'll save my roster reviews for at least after the gauntlet this weekend.
Yes, that would be a good
my opinions
idea
on it, because we have all summer to agree, disagree, and Worlds is still I guess it's September, so I guess a month away. The end of October is normally when it starts.
Yeah.
So, but we have other fish to fry this weekend.
Yes.
Since we finished in playoffs in the spring split and made it to the finals in the summer split, Cloud9 is sitting in the gauntlet, and they are the final boss on Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, playing to be determined.
This is our place of power, Frozen. You can say what you will about Cloud9 in playoffs. You can say what you want about Cloud9 in the finals. Cloud9 in the gauntlet is where they shine. They don't want a gold trophy. They don't want the silver medal. They want the iron gauntlet. They want the iron throne. And this is where they shine because they have a lot more room to practice. I think maybe it's sort of a pressure cooker situation where it's like, okay, you guys want to go to Worlds, this is your last chance. And I think that really pushes it. Like, remember last year, Sneaky went Super Saiyan on CLG as Zaya and was able to push Cloud9 to Worlds that year. The team just has something in them that they're able to go through the gauntlet. And I think they can do it again. I think it's going to be maybe their toughest run yet because they are the final boss, so they have a lot of time just kind of sitting around and waiting, as well as just the sheer competition that they could potentially go up against is so fierce. They have Clutch Gaming, who has to play Echo Fox. Whoever wins that has to then play TSM, which is our kryptonite a lot of the time. And then whoever wins that match then has to go up against Cloud9. And that sounds like a really tough order.
Yeah, I feel like this might be one of the hardest gauntlets. Yeah, you can maybe argue for last year when we had to beat Immortals. Is that correct?
That was 2 years ago.
2 years. God, I'm getting old.
I think that might have actually
I'd have
been
to go
last
back
year.
and-
Impact was playing for us. That I know that much. I
Yeah.
think it might have been 2 years ago. Because yeah, I think it was 2 years ago. I think it was when we lost to TSM in the finals, and then we had to go through the gauntlet. Like we had to beat Immortals to go to the finals, and we beat them, and it was great. And then we had to go up against Immortals again in the gauntlet to ensure that we go to Worlds. And I remember Poe Belter was upset because the person interviewing him was like, "So how do you feel?" And he's like, "I don't want to talk about it." Because he was like that upset, and I can totally get it. You know, I can't
All right,
remember the year.
I
If
looked it up.
you can remember the year, say in the comments what year it was.
Okay, I actually looked it up. So last year we were also the final boss in the gauntlet.
Yeah, because last year we played against CLG.
Yeah, so we beat CLG 3-1. CLG beat FlyQuest, and FlyQuest beat Team Dignitas. So that was last year. So the Immortals run was the year before. That's beside the point. So we've always talked about the Cloud9 Gauntlet buff, but I think what worries me the most is TSM has been practicing 2 weeks
More.
before this, and they just watch us get dismantled in the finals, and that gave them a good look into what our weaknesses are. And if they can play a smart, controlled game or with vision, like
Well, the thing about TSM is their macro is garbage right now. Like watching them play not only in the playoffs but just throughout the whole season, their macro has not looked good. You know how do we beat TSM in the semis? Better macro. Every single game against TSM, we took like 4 towers. That displays that TSM has bad macro, and they are putting so much on late game Bjergsen and late game Sven to ensure that they can win. If you can just have good macro and make sure that they don't get too crazy, you beat TSM.
I mean, yeah, but that was also 2 weeks ago almost, and I think that they're smart enough to have learned a few things. Obviously, we did beat the shit out of them, actually playing around the map, and that there were a lot of other problems in our gameplay that we probably should have seen going into finals. But I'm still worried about it because it's TSM in Worlds is on the line. So I guess we've been going for 36 minutes. Let's talk about how we think the gauntlet is going to play out.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
So
I was actually going to
Friday,
suggest that.
yeah. So Friday, this podcast is being recorded and posted on Thursday. So tomorrow, Friday the 14th, 5 p.m. Echo Fox and Clutch Gaming. What do you think is going to happen?
I think so. I'm not so sure on that. I have two scenarios. One being that Echo Fox is able to just leverage their superior talent and pretty much go through Clutch like a hot knife through butter. You have Huni in the top lane, solid. Dardoch in the jungle, solid. Who's in the mid lane again? Is it Demonte?
For Echo
Yes.
Fox, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. You have I'm Demonte's a good. He's an alright player. I haven't seen too much of him to really develop an opinion. I like Phoenix more, and the fact that they did Phoenix really dirty gives me a bad taste in my mouth, kind of, when I think of Echo Fox. You have Loss.
I did that for Altec.
Yeah, exactly. Altec, I think, is way superior AD carry to Lost. Lost hasn't really wowed me that much either. Lost plays for Echo Fox, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I just want to get my information straight. But I think Altec was better than Lost. Lost does bring sort of youthful vigor, and you can kind of mold him a bit more. But I think Altec was maybe better. You do have Smoothie. Smoothie hasn't looked as good like he did in the past. Like, I think the past 2 years, like the previous years leading up to Smoothie, like this year and Smoothie leaving Cloud9, Smoothie looked way better. His shot calling seems to be kind of hit or miss lately. But I mean, there's no reason to say that Smoothie doesn't go back to best support in NA mode and shot call Echo Fox to victory like he used to do with Cloud9. On the other side, I can see Clutch actually upsetting Echo Fox. Clutch hasn't played for a while. They could just be trying to hyperbolic time chamber themselves to another level. You know, Febivin in the mid lane is solid. You know, I believe they might be playing with Piglet. I can't remember. They may have benched Apollo for Piglet.
As of right now, Apollo was listed as the starter, but that may have happened. I'm not sure.
I can't remember. I haven't paid attention to Clutch really because their season hasn't been too stellar. Just really that impressive. But Solo's a really solid top laner. He's not to the level of like Huni or Someday or Licorice or Impact, but Solo is solid. And if you need, he's sort of like balls in the respective. We don't expect you to do amazing. We just need you to do enough to where you're not super far behind. And he does that a lot, and he does that well. I think really Clutch is probably just going to try to play through the mid lane and just use Febivin to overpower Demonte and then transfer that to trying to take down Echo Fox's bot lane and then just sort of rotating around the map and then just trying to crush people. That's my hot take on the Echo Fox Clutch match.
I don't have any hot takes. I think Echo Fox is too much of a match for Clutch Gaming, as they have shown. As the Clutch Gaming that we last saw come out and play, Echo Fox was just lost to TSM in the playoffs, and I think that Echo Fox outmatches Clutch Gaming all over the map, except maybe in the mid lane. I think you can make an argument for Lyra being a better jungler, but I think that Dardoch pairs up with his teammates better. It makes a stronger duo than what Lyra does with him.
I think Lyra is very hit and miss. I think Dardoch is much more consistent, and that's what you need in a jungler.
Yeah, so if I wouldn't be surprised to see this go 3-0. I think the safe bet is 3-1, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was a 3-0.
Yeah, I think Echo Fox is more favored for sure.
So we have Echo Fox going on to TSM. Both of us do. Could you see a world where Clutch Gaming makes it to Sunday?
I could. I think that with TSM's weak macro game and the fact that they are being very over reliant on Bjergsen, especially in the late game, I think that Clutch does have a fairly good chance at beating TSM. I think it's basically going to come down to which mid lane wins. You either put it through Febvin, or Febvin doesn't do well. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think, does Clutch have a head-to-head against TSM this split? I think they might.
They might.
I can't remember. I feel like they do for some reason, but I think there's definitely a world where Clutch could go and face up against Cloud9. I'm sort of hoping so, because Clutch Gaming seems to be like the easiest opponent for us. I would rather face them than Echo Fox or TSM, because they have a lot more stronger players and a lot more wildcard effects in play that I don't think Clutch has. I think Clutch is very... I don't want to say simple, because that sounds insulting, but when you try to analyze the teams, I think Clutch is a more simple puzzle than the likes of Echo Fox or TSM.
So I looked at it. Clutch and TSM went 1-1
okay.
through the regular season. So I mean, I guess I could see a world where they make it to Sunday, but I would give them very, very, very low odds to make it that far.
I'm just expecting us to play TSM. That's
the last iteration of Clutch that we saw in the regular season was very poor, so I don't expect them to do much. So Saturday, the matchup that we have is Echo Fox TSM. How do you feel about that?
That's an interesting one, because I feel that Echo Fox and TSM match up pretty well. I think Echo Fox has a slight edge because Dardoch is a more experienced jungler than Grig, but with Bjergsen and Sven in late game, you certainly have that sort of stepping stool that kind of evens it back out. I think I see Echo Fox just playing through top lane and just letting Huni crush Hanser and then take that advantage elsewhere. You don't really have to rely on mid and bot lane. All you have to do is have mid and bot lane go even, maybe even slightly behind, and just have Dardoch and Huni just kind of carry Echo Fox to victory. I can definitely see them doing that and winning. But then again, I also see TSM just sort of turtling to late game, which has been sort of their MO this split at least, and then just having Bjergsen carry the game.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. I think once you kind of just match up the lanes together, that Echo Fox probably is just a little bit behind, because I feel like the bottom lane, I guess Sven and Mithy have been such a toss-up, it's hard to say, but I feel like they're a little bit better than Lost in a Smoothie. Bjerg is obviously better than Demonte, but the top jungle synergy for Echo Fox is substantially better for Echo Fox than it is for TSM. I think if you asked me to bet on who would win, I would probably put my money down on TSM, but I'm really conflicted on it because TSM just barely knocked Echo Fox out of playoffs, so they've had an extra week to practice after watching TSM lose to us, and I just know how hard it is to beat someone twice in the same season with such high stakes in order. So my heart says TSM, but my rational thought thinks it's Echo Fox.
I think it'll just be TSM, because of course we would have to face them to go to Worlds, and only one of us could go.
I mean, that in and of itself is a really hype matchup to go to Worlds with everything on the line.
I don't want it to be on the line, though. I want it to be the easy win.
Yeah, the easy one would probably be Clutch Gaming.
I mean,
but I see very small odds that actually happens. So,
I have one final question before I guess we move on. Unless, sorry, I'm interrupting you. What were you going to do?
No, you're fine.
Okay, well, I was
I
gonna
don't know what
ask,
it
how do you
was.
feel about 100 Thieves going to Worlds? Because they looked like just this really shaky team that managed to get into the tournament on a technicality, and not because they were a team that represents high tier NA LCS talent or whatever. I think that outside of Someday and Afromu, I think that the team just and Ryu, I forgot about Ryu. The team, just they don't look that good. I think it's in terms of like an international scale, and I think that sending 100 Thieves to Worlds just feels bad, especially how the decisions from like the second half of the split sort of are opposite of us, because we made roster changes and everything and kind of took gambles, and we kind of took off. Meanwhile, 100 Thieves is like, we're going to get rid of Medios. We're going to do this whole thing where Rikara plays for the whole time and Cody Sun doesn't even participate in their playoff match, and then they just look completely lost playing against TSM for third place.
I agree with a lot of what you said, but I still do think that they technically earned it. Just because like they didn't perform well at the end,
Yeah,
doesn't take away from the
spring
fact that
split
they would have.
should count. I do agree. I think you should consider the performance of the year as a whole and not just the tail end, because I think that's what happened in the past, and I think a lot of people were really upset because Team A does really well in spring, but they didn't do so well in summer, so you're gonna mess them up just because Team B looked like garbage for most of the year, but performed really well in key weeks that mattered, kind of thing.
Yeah, but if Cloud9 really deserved it, they would have performed better in the spring, and they would have performed better in the
No,
finals
I
because
completely agree with
yeah,
you.
yeah, we had our opportunities. Like it kind of sucks how it shakes out, but like they've proven that they're a really good team. So I mean, it sucks because they don't look like the second strongest team, and but honestly, I would have a hard time totally taking it away from them and giving it to a different team because I do feel like they earned it more than whoever loses the gauntlet finals earned it. So I don't think they look like the second best team that we should send, but I think they've done enough to earn going to Worlds, and I don't think that there's any other teams that quote unquote deserve it more. And if they do, they'll win the gauntlet. So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have for this episode. Do you have anything else you want to say?
What's your prediction for the final score?
I don't know, man. Uh, I'm so conflicted, and just I don't want to predict anything because I know if I predict that C9 wins and they lose, I'll just get more upset than I normally would. Uh, and if I predict that C9 loses and C9 ends up winning, I look like an asshole. So I don't know. I just hope that the team comes to play and they play well.
I mean, this is a Cloud9 podcast. They earned their spot at the top of the gauntlet. So I'm gonna have to go with Cloud9 over. I don't know. I still can't decide between that Ico Fox
Just say
TSM
TSM
game.
because that's what's going to happen.
I'm gonna say Ico Fox because you're saying a TSM,
Okay.
and when Ico Fox wins, I can rub it in your face. I'm hoping we pull out the Urgot. That's about
I
it.
hear that that's a really strong
Sorry,
pick in Korea.
Yeah, Urgod. I mean,
I'm still upset that they haven't given him a Star Guard skin. He deserves it. The fans want it. You'll make so much money if you make a Star Guardian. I don't understand why you would not make it. The demand is there. Now we just need the supply.
they're gonna make a better Urgot skin when Griffin wins World on the back of Urgod.
Oh please.
Hot take. Okay. I feel like there's something else I wanted to say, but I think it might have just been Urgot. So I guess let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Okay, so thank you for listening to Body at a Cloud9 Fancast. We appreciate all of you lovely listeners sticking us.
Oh, one more thing.
Okay, well,
Fuck TSM.
okay. Thank you. We appreciate everyone listening throughout the course of the show. What episode number are we on? We're getting dangerously close to episode 100.
Fuck, probably 95. This is,
Okay,
I think.
so we have a few more episodes left, but we're gonna try and quit putting it off and actually put our heads together and figure out what to do for episode 100. It'll hopefully be a good one. But thank you again for listening. We'll see you again next time.
All right, bye guys.